you talked about how you coach in different capacities and in different subjects. And leadership is something that I feel is so important, particularly for, you know, our black and brown students and young folks who are trying to figure out how they make their mark in the world to sort of represent. There's this extra tax on a lot of folks from marginalized communities of having to represent, right? Whether it's their family, their neighborhood, their ethnicity, right? Their culture. And there's a lot of truth to that. However, leadership starts with the individual, and it can look like a lot of different things. And so could you give some sort of insight or some advice on some of the things that you have worked on with other clients around leadership at its very, basic level? Like, could you give me like 3 things that would be helpful for someone to think about as they are entering a world wanting to become a leader in their space and put positive energy out into the world based upon their passion and their purpose?
So I feel like there's a couple different things here, and one of them is the extra weight that we carry as Black bodies, often in white spaces.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna put that on the side for a moment and deal with the leadership piece. And one of the things that comes up a lot in my coaching is the stress and the pressure that people put on themselves to achieve. And because of that pressure, they often get way out of balance. They're working crazy hours. They don't take care of themselves. Their lives get really lopsided. Because like me, when I was in my early 20s, I thought that job, that was the most important thing. And I talked to them a lot about high involvement, low attachment. And by that I mean you show up, you do the work, you're highly involved, but the low attachment is not allowing yourself to get caught up in all the emotional stress, because it doesn't help. People often think that pressure makes them perform better. And so subconsciously they put themselves under pressure so they can perform better. Over time, though, you reach this point of diminishing return where that is not helpful. And so if you can keep from getting in that situation to begin with and learn to not choose, because it is a choice, even though we don't think it is, not to choose the pressure, the stress. We can do the work and not choose to take on the stress. That's a bigger conversation. I don't know if that's sounds really fuzzy.
It's interesting because I do feel that we have a grind culture, right? Where it's just like, I gotta get it, I gotta hustle, I gotta grind. And as you talked about this idea of pressure and subconsciously embracing that pressure, similar with grinding, like sooner or later you're gonna be dust, right? You could only grind for so long, and so how is it do you think that's something that is self-inflicted, or do you think that is a greater societal thing that places upon folks, particularly those from marginalized communities, who feel like that whole saying, and I'm sure you've heard it a million times, I have to be twice as good to get the same result as somebody that is not of my ethnicity or background? What do you say to that? Is that more of a self-inflicted thing or a society thing, or a little bit of both?
It's all of it, all of the above. And what you just said is great. I have to work twice as hard to get the same. I grew up hearing I had to work twice as hard for half as much. And I can't even tell you how that belief showed up in my life. So no matter how hard I worked, my white counterparts, I didn't make half as much. They often made more than I did, though. It was a belief. It was just a belief that we take on. So some of it comes from society, some of it we place on ourselves. And once I realized that it was nothing more than a belief, it wasn't true. When I stopped believing that I had to work twice as hard for half as much, guess what? My new belief is I work half as much as make twice as much, right? Like the whole dynamic shifted. And I started making more money than I ever made in my life. And I don't work harder. Because it's just a belief that we then live out. So we often get it culturally and from society, and then we personally take that as truth and go live it. Because I remember when I was in the brokerage industry, people used to say to me all the time, isn't racism a problem? Because at that time, first of all, I was the youngest vice president in the country at 21. Like there weren't any. And I was Black. And they used to say, isn't racism a problem? And I used to say, if it is, it isn't mine. And I think that is why I was able to excel, because I did not believe that was going to hold me back. I had other beliefs that held me back at other points in my life.
It just wasn't that one.
Yes, but what I'm wanting to illustrate here is that it's our beliefs that we live, and they're nothing more. You know, our parents are doing the best they could, right? My mom thought she was really preparing me for the world. You're going to have to work twice as hard. Get out there. That was based on her life and her generation. I took that as truth and then lived it. We all do it. So this isn't like right or wrong, good or bad. There's no judgment in this. It's just about awareness. Because once we become aware, we can choose newly. We can choose something else to then live by. It's that easy. I mean, I'll say it's that simple.
Simple. Yes, because definitely not easy. It's definitely not easy.
That's why people have coaches.
Thanks for listening. If you like notes from this episode and more, head over to drjaewilliams.com and download Dr. J's Gems. I got notes from all the episodes, helpful resources, and curated content exclusively for my office hours fam. Absolutely free. Yes, you heard it right, free. So check it out. You never know. You just might learn something new. And remember, you are what you've been waiting for. Talk to you soon. Peace.